Well, you learn something new every day, and I recently found out that if you have a hole in your fan shroud and your fan is missing a blade, that significantly reduces the efficiency of your cooling system. So today we're going to put a new fan with all the blades, a new fan clutch, and we're going to patch this hole in the fan shroud so this thing stays the right temperature. So removing the old fan is a pretty simple job. There's just these 4 nuts that you gotta loosen from the water pump, but to get the fan out, you actually have to remove the shroud, which of course the top hose here is also in our way. So I'm going to see if I can finagle it around that so I don't have to remove it, and we'll go from there. These loosen pretty easy because all the belts keep the fan from spinning, but they are kind of difficult to reach from the underside. So the ones that are right in front of you are easy to get to, the other ones are not so easy to get to. And the engine's hot right now. Oh, that hurts. Oh, that hurts. And I don't want to drop the nuts either. There's 1. 2. See if I can catch it. Just like that. Okay, I got all 4 nuts off. The one that was on the bottom was really hard to reach. So what I actually did is I bumped the starter. Of course, I had everything out of the way, and it just turned it right to the top, and then I could get the top one off. So all 4 of those are loose now, and I'm gonna take the shroud off now, which is just 2 nuts, bolts. So there's 1 there, and the other one is inside here. Okay. And the bottom part of the shroud is just it's like, well, it's just kind of locked in there. So I got the fan here, and I don't want to thrash it up against the radiator, and so I got to kind of hold on to it at the same time I hold on to the shroud. I'm going to try and sneak the shroud out over here on the battery side so I don't have to remove the radiator thing there. Try and move that out of the way a little bit. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm close to having the fan out, I guess. Just watch out for the radiator. There, we got the shroud high enough, I think. Yep, there we go. Okay. Okay, so here's the old one, obviously, and the new one. And the new fan clutch looks different than the old one. This is the OEM brand. That one must not be. The difference is that the OEM brand has these studs, and the old one that's on here, this aftermarket one, goes on with bolts. So I had to go to the hardware store and buy these 6mm nuts. I got the flange ones with the little serrated edges so that they don't come loose, and that'll allow me to fasten it to the fan. So while the fan shroud is loose and sticking up a little bit like this, I thought this would be a good time to patch this. So I got an old piece of license plate and I just kind of bent it to fit The bolt hole's there, I'll plug that. But now I'm going to use just pop rivets and rivet it onto the plastic shroud there, and we'll have that hole patched up. Okay, I've got it all riveted in place. Seems pretty solid. Patch that hole with a piece of flex tape from each side. I suppose I could have cut all this out and avoided the hole, but it was there. I guess if I was really worried about it, I could seal it up, but I don't think it needs to be that airtight. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think we're going to go ahead and start putting things back together. Okay, so I've got the fan and the clutch fastened to each other, and I'm gonna carefully put it down here inside the shroud without watching out for the radiator. I don't want to tear up the radiator, and I don't want to break any fan blades either. That'd be a bummer. Okay. Watch out. Okay. And then you gotta push the shroud down into place and get the fan on the studs. There we go. And then make sure the shroud is in the right spot. There's like these little I don't know what you call them, like little nubs on the bottom. They gotta fit right in the right spot. Okay, so I had a really hard time getting the shroud back in the right spot, so I removed the battery cage thing, and boy, it just went right in place. So there's a recommendation for you. Alright, so the shroud's back in place, and I can make sure the fan's on the bolt studs, and then I've got 4 nuts to put on there, and I think I'm going to start by threading them on by hand. So I'm recognizing that the pulley that all this is on is kind of kinked to the side. It's a little sideways, which means the nuts that we're holding the fan on, we're holding that pulley straight. So I'm going to loosen the tension on these other belts. I probably should have done that to begin with, actually. Okay, so I loosened the belts. This is the power steering belt. There's a tensioner pulley down there you got to loosen. And then over here is the alternator belt. You got to loosen that tension, and that allows this pulley to sit, well, loose. I should have done that at the beginning. So if you're watching this video, loosen these belts at the beginning. So now I am tightening these nuts to hold the fan onto the water pump pulley. And one thing I realized is that you need to thread all of these nuts, all 4 of them, on to the stud before you start tightening things down, because otherwise the fan starts to get closer and closer as you tighten it to the pulley, and the stud gets closer to the clutch here, and you can't get the last nut on there. So then I had to loosen them all up to get that last nut on there. Anyway, the other advantage of the pulley, the belts being loose, is that as I'm tightening this down, it gets to a certain tension where I can actually rotate the the whole pulley. So now you can see I'll tighten this nut, and then when it gets it to a certain tension, the whole thing will spin, and that allows me to get to the next nut and tighten that one. And then of course at a certain point I've got to really tighten them down really good, so I'll have to tighten the belts up, or else get another wrench on there to keep it from spinning on me. But this at least gets me to the point where I can get everything snug, and then I can start tightening the belts, tightening these nuts, and putting everything back together again. Well, that wasn't too bad. Once again, I tend to avoid taking off more things than I need to, and so I end up coming back and removing the belts and everything. If you're watching this and you got to do this job, just loosen the belts right away and the job goes a lot easier. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.